So for the next few minutes, I just want to close the opening speeches before we go into the question and answer sessions. I think of all the people that are here, I'm the least smart person. All of them have high IQ. They are very brilliant. So I don't have plenty things to say. But I'll just say this for everybody. I know there are some people here that are probably atheists who have deliberately affirmed that God doesn't exist. I know there are some people that are not sure whether God exists or not. I know there are some people here that probably are not sure, but they don't care. They don't care. They are not sure and they don't care. They don't bother to think about it. Of course, there are some people here who might be of other religions, Muslims, Jews, unlikely, except you're an Igbo person that claims to be a Jewish person, or, Buddhists, unlikely. So more likely, have more Muslims here. And you may be a Christian who has doubts, and you're here because some things don't make sense. You've made some mental assents, or you actually believe the gospel and you go to church, but some things are still not clear to you and they don't make sense. And there's some people here who are very sure, but have come to see the spectacle and come to add answers to their ammunition so that they can go and deal with somebody at home. Whatever category you fall into, I would like to say to you something. I'd like to paint a picture in your mind that God is not the supreme being. God is not the supreme being, because when we say that, because words have power, and the power of words is that they are able to paint pictures in our minds, and those pictures that we have in our minds are what inform how we think and how we conceptualize things and how we think about life. Words have the ability to paint pictures in our mind. So when people say that God is the supreme being, the picture that it tends to paint is that there's one entity who is big. He's very big. And all of us are smaller than him. He's very big, but we are smaller than him. In a sense, that can deceive you to think that even though he's big, you are in the same category. God is not the supreme being. God is being. God is the being. Being is God. Everything else that exists because it is borrowing being from God. Everything else that exists because God gives it permission to exist. Whether you like it or not, if you're an atheist or a naturalist, listen to me. This world did not create itself. You have never and you will never, witness something coming out of nothing. There is being that gave this universe its being. And that being is intelligent. It has a nature. It has a way of thinking. And this being has 3 persons in that being. So that this being does not need anything. This being does not need anything. And I mean that in a very strong sense. Every other monotheistic religion tries to explain God as one person, one being and one person. And the problem with that is that God needs something. That kind of God cannot exist by himself without love. Or he exists by himself without love. You cannot love yourself. That would be narcissism. If you love yourself all by yourself, you're a narcissist. So for you to find love or experience love, you have to create someone to experience. And that means either this God is a narcissist that doesn't need anybody's love, or he needs creatures for him to compete to experience love. But we see a God that is a being, that is 3 persons, that exists by himself, that loves himself eternally, like the Son said when he came in the flesh. One of the persons of this being, he came in the flesh because he's raw being himself. He took on the human nature and came to be among us. And while he was among us, he said something. He was praying for those that were his children and his disciples. And he says that I pray that they will love each other the way we have loved ourselves eternally. So that if the Christian God did not create anybody, he wouldn't have needed anything. Then why did he create us? He created us rational human beings. He created us in his image so that we can enjoy the kind of love that he and the 3 persons, the Godhead, enjoys eternally. He created us so that we can enjoy that same kind of love. He doesn't need it, but because he is love, he wants to express that love in other entities like us. And so that's why deep inside of us, each and every one of us is hungering for love. We all want love. We want to be validated. We want someone to love us for who we are. Everybody wants to be loved for who they are. It sounds funny, but the trend that is happening on social media over the last few days is actually, in a funny way, it can help to bring this thing to mind. A footballer puts all his property in his mother's name, and when the wife sued him, wanted to take half of the property, nothing for her, because the property is not in his name. Sharp guy. But listen, why did he make that decision? He made that decision because there's a deep need for love that he believes that only his mother could give him. And he went into that marriage not believing that that woman could give him that love. So obviously from the beginning, that marriage was doomed to fail. And it was on both sides because what he was looking for, he found. And that means she always had it. Anyway, let's leave that aside. He created us for love. But because he is goodness, this being is pure goodness. He is maximally great. He is pure goodness and he is pure love. He created us, and the only way that we can maximize that fellowship with him, the only way that we can know that fellowship with him, is if we also live following that nature that he has. He has a nature of goodness, and he has a nature of love. And he created us so that we can live in that nature of goodness and that nature of love just as he had. But something happened. Something happened. Because of the same gifts of being that he has, which is the rationality and the ability to make decisions that he gave us, for him to prove that he truly gave us that ability to make decisions. Because you cannot love if you don't have a choice. Did you understand that? You cannot love if you don't have a choice. So he created us so that we can enjoy the kind of love that he had eternally. But if he didn't give us a choice, then he's paying lip service. It means he's lying. But he cannot lie because he is good. So he had to give us a choice. So he created our ancestors, Adam and Eve, and gave us a choice. Gave them all the good things, that they could ever enjoy, but gave them an option because they had to have an option. If they did not have an option, then they were just robots. He was lying. That's why rape is such a grievous evil, because we are taking something from someone without the person's consent. That's why you cannot love your laptop. You cannot say your laptop loves you. ChatGPT cannot love you because he has to have a choice. So he demonstrated his goodness by giving them a choice. But guess what? They looked at the choices to choose the tree of knowledge of good and evil, or to choose his life. And they chose the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Why? Because someone deceived them to think that if they chose that, they will be able to be independent. They will be able to live on their own terms. They will be able to make their own choices. They looked at it and they saw that it was good to them. It was good in their mind. But the God, this being, this raw being, is the only one who can tell us what is good. He offers us what is good, and we're meant to accept it and receive it. We are not meant to decide for ourselves what is good. But just as Adam and Eve did, they were worthy representatives for all of us. Because some people might be offended and say, why am I suffering for the sins of those people? What they did is what you do every single day. What they did is what you do every single day. Every single day, we are constantly faced with doing what this good being wants, or what he has prescribed, and we keep choosing what we think is good to our own eyes, what we think is pleasing to our own eyes, what we think is wise in our own eyes. And this is what humanity has been doing from the beginning. But a river that forgets its source will do what? Will die. And because of that, when we as a race of human beings, when we made that choice to go our own way, God, who is being himself, we cut off ourselves from him. And from that day, we all died. We're all on the trajectory of death. We're all by nature children of death. But because this being is love, he looked at us and the reason why he created us. And if he had just destroyed us completely for that, he would be like he's a liar. It would be like as if that love is not fulfilled. So he demonstrated that love by humiliating himself. He needed to make a way so that even though we have made the choice to go away from him, he needed to redirect us back to himself so that we can be one with being again, so that we can see the true fulfillment and our purpose and our true essence in being reunited with his being. So he had to make a way for us to come back to him. But we could not find him by ourselves. Even though deep down inside us, we are eating obviously of the knowledge of true, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We have some good, so we have a sense. He's the one that created the tree. So he gave us the good and evil. There's a good in the evil. And that's why if you look at people who have denied God, it seems like as if there's some good in them. They don't like to do some things. They don't like to feel some things that are bad. But guess what? They also choose evil. So that is the reason why even though there's some good in us, some kind of good, some kind of demonstration that we know what is good, we keep choosing evil. We could not have found him by ourselves. We could not have. Because he is good, the evil in us had created a partition between us and him that we could never cross over. So since we could not go to where he was, he had to come to where we are. So that's why this being took on flesh and came in our nature. And he spoke to us and walked among the earth and chose men like himself and did a message. And therefore, the reason, the evil that we keep choosing every day, the evil that we chose that has put a partition between him, we had to pay for that evil. We had to pay the consequences of it so that we could be reconciled with himself again. But the person that could pay the consequence of this sin is someone that will carry unlimited amount of sins. Because one person's sin alone, from the day they are small to the day they die, is so much. How much more the billions of people that have ever existed or that will ever exist? The person that will pay for this amount of sins must be someone who himself is uncountable. Is someone who himself is unlimited. So the only unlimited being took flesh, came to us to pay the sacrifice of the thing that was separating us from God. So that everybody that accepts that sacrifice can be united with being again. When he was on the earth, he made a lot of claims. He said a lot of things. He demonstrated that he was God. At different points in time, some people got a glimpse of what he did, and they bowed down and he worshipped, and he never turned them back. He received it. He made blasphemous claims, and he died. But if this being had told just one lie, because God is holy, if he had told only one lie, he would not have risen from the dead. Do you know why? Because God will have been validating that lie by raising him from the dead. Because what would have happened is that if he had told one lie and it was recorded and God raised him from the dead, they will have, all of us today will be saying it's okay to commit some sin because that one lie is okay. But he was tempted like us in every way, yet without sin. Not one did he break his father's will. Not once did he commit any sin. He was tempted just like us. Every single temptation that you think you've gone through, he went through it. And he did not fall once. Completely sinless, and he paid the sacrifice for us. He carried an unlimited amount of sin on his heart, on himself, and went into the grave, and the Father proved that he's the one that sent him by raising him up again. Validating him, vindicating him. No other man in existence or in existence has ever been raised to dead from the dead like he was. By himself, being God. And God vindicated him and showed that truly he was his son. It was him in the flesh. And he rose again and he gave us his church. Now I know you have many issues. I know that there are many things and there are many questions. And by God's grace, we'll try and answer as many of them today as the Lord will help us. But I want to tell you something. The abuse of Christianity is not evidence that Christianity is corrupt. I don't know what has happened to you. I don't know what you have heard. But the history of Christianity for the past 2,000 years is the history of all kinds of people constantly falling short of the standard that the Lord has given us. But when we look at the Lord, when we look at his word, it is flawless and it is untouched. Listen to me. You might be here and you don't believe in God and you're not sure. I guarantee you, as surely as you can touch yourself and you can feel it, I guarantee you that there's someone that created you. One day you will die and you will give account to him. One day you will die and you will give account to him. And this person, he is good. He is a good person. He will not allow you to do evil and go scot-free. That day when you see him, the question will be, how do you want to pay for the evil you've done? Are you going to take the sacrifice that was paid on your behalf, or do you want to pay for it by yourself? That's the question I'm asking you this morning. You can distract your soul and distract your heart with Netflix and being in school and social media and money and sex and power. You can distract yourself from asking yourself the real questions. But listen to me, one day in the quiet hours, in the darkness of the night, when you are alone and these other things cannot reach the deepest corners of your heart, you will remember and you will know that why is there something rather than nothing. One day you will give account for what you have done. One day you will. The question is, do you want to be eternally united with your Creator? Do you want to experience the real joy and the real love and the real bliss for which you were created? Or do you want to pay for your sins by yourselves? Many of our friends from other religions have all kinds of ideas of how they want to pay for their sins by themselves. And I'm amazed that people are willing to face the holy God, the pure God, the righteous God, and they want to gamble their eternity. And Muslim friends will say that nobody's sure. On that day when you get there, they will count your good deeds versus your bad deeds. And you will hope that your good deeds will be more than the bad. But I have two big problems with that. The first one is that you are gambling your life. How do you know that all your good deeds will outweigh your bad? The second one is, I'm sorry, but I don't want to go to an eternity with people that did 1 million bad things, but did 1,000,001 good things so they can enter heaven. You did 1 million horrible things, raped and plundered and killed and did all kinds of evil, but I did 1,000,001 good more things. So because of that one extra good that outweighs all the bad, I will allow you to go into heaven. What kind of heaven is that? I don't want. It's a big problem. But I know one that recognizes our infirmities and paid the sacrifices for our sins and washed us so that on that day, he's going to present us spotless and clean. He's going to take away this flesh of mortality that weighs us down, that continually holds us back, that prevents us from being all that we are meant to be. And on that day, we will be all we are meant to be in him. And in that congregation on that day, it's going to be full of only perfect people who have accepted that sacrifice. Don't lie to yourself and deceive yourself by not asking yourself the hard questions. God exists. Can take you to the grave deceiving yourself. But on that day, every knee will bow and every tongue will confess. That day when Jesus comes, there will be no atheists. On that day, there will be no agnostics. The question I'm asking you is this. When he comes that day, do you want to stand with him, before him, and pay for your sacrifices by yourself? Or do you want to take his offer? Because of his goodness, he has made a way out for you. He has made a way out for you because he truly loves you. If you take that offer, I guarantee you that the life you're going to live after will not be easy. It will be difficult in this world. He has a standard of living that you have to live by. He has a cross of life that you have to live by. You have to live by it. And many times you may fall, but he'll be there to pick you up. It means you have to be bold and you have to be courageous to stand for what you believe. And people are going to persecute you. You're going to lose friends. You're going to lose certain earthly privileges. But it will be worth it. Because the glory that's going to come after will be far, far, far outweigh it. It will far outweigh it. You're going to see many more Christians who are also imperfect. There's going to be a mixed multitude. Actually, some will be weeds and some will be the actual wheat. There will be some bad people among the Christians when you come into this family who will pretend as if they are amongst us. Some of them are not deliberately bad. Some of them are just growing spiritually. So they will not be perfect. And they will misbehave. They will carry Jesus on their head, but they will misbehave. But it won't touch the fact that Jesus is good. It won't touch the fact that Jesus loves all of us. And even you yourself will also be growing. And even you yourself, even though you are imperfect, he will still love you. It won't be all perfect. I cannot guarantee you that you'll be rich when you come into this family. Some amongst us have said that if you come into this family, you will be rich. It is not true. I can't guarantee you that you'll be rich. You might make sacrifices for the sake of this gospel that will not allow you to be rich. You might do certain things and live your life in certain ways that will not give you the freedom to go and chase money as you want. You might not be popular. You might not be famous. But you have Jesus. And it will matter more than any other thing. So I look forward to your questions. Please ask them in a very civil manner. Please be polite. And we promise you that we'll also answer the questions politely. And I trust so much that God will help us today. Thank you very much.